Next tonight here, the tragedy at Yellowstone National Park involving a baby bison.
Putting her in the hospital with significant injuries. Park rangers say it happened this morning on the north shore of Lake Yellowstone.
Yellowstone National Park employees and guests, residents of the surrounding area.
An incident occurred in Yellowstone National Park this evening when a young boy was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Rangers say the crash happened this morning on the north side of Yellowstone Lake. Changes in the Yellowstone ecosystem have resulted in the closure of the park to protect visitors from the dangerous conditions observed. Yellowstone National Park is temporarily closed. Fox News correspondent Peter Doe shares more about the horrific incident. After extensive research and analysis by scientists, we now have a better understanding of the threats to Yellowstone. Join us as we discuss the beautiful things that make the park unique and how it might be closed. Yellowstone is the first national park in the United States, founded in 1872. It's called Wonderland for good reason. The park is located in the western United States, mostly in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. It also has over 10,000 fascinating geothermal features that will take your breath away. More than 2 million acres feature hypnotic hot springs, bubbling mud pools, gushing fumaroles, and impressive geysers. The hot springs in Yellowstone are famous for their bright colors and variety. They are bodies of water that flow freely beneath the surface after being overheated due to underground volcanic activity. The temperature of these hot lakes varies, and their colors can often give us an idea of their temperature. Darker colors in warm water generally mean warmer, while lighter colors may indicate cooler temperatures. However, due to Yellowstone's high altitude, water boils at a higher temperature than normal, around 94 degrees Celsius. Mud pots are another type of geothermal feature. They consist of low water mixed with bacteria and acidic compounds. These bacteria use the hydrogen sulfide found deep in the soil as energy and convert it into sulfuric acid. This acid breaks down rocks, forming clay and creating magnificent mud. As for fumaroles, they are hot gases whose temperature reaches as low as 280 degrees Fahrenheit. As they rise to the surface, you will recognize them by their constant talking and spitting. There is also Yellowstone Lake, the largest lake in North America, covering 130 square miles. The lake is ideal for boating, fishing, or simply relaxing in peaceful surroundings. If you want to go hiking, there are many trails that will take you into the true beauty of the mountains, canyons, and dense forests. But the geysers are the most beautiful in the park. These thermal springs are closed thermal springs that constantly spray water with the power of underground vents. Approximately 500 of the world's 900 geysers are located in Yellowstone, the most famous of which is Old Faithful. This legend occurs approximately every 90 minutes and reaches the height of 50 meters. Permanent jets like Black Warrior Lake's Endless Geyser erupt constantly, while geysers like Blaze's Edge Pool constantly flow, creating a sensation for visitors. There are also nearly 300 waterfalls in Yellowstone. There seems to be no end to the wonder of this playground. You'll feel like you're in the middle of a documentary, as there's still amazing wildlife here. From majestic grizzly bears and wolves to herds of bison and elk, Yellowstone has a lot to offer. But unfortunately, it has to be closed due to threats. However, Peter Doe announced that there was no way to avoid it, and steps were being taken to stop the threat. One of Yellowstone's most interesting features is the supervolcano lurking beneath the surface. The supervolcanoes in the park are classified as calderas because they are large craters formed after massive eruptions. Its diameter is approximately 45 kilometers. Although the last major eruption occurred thousands of years ago and left behind the remnants of an ancient cataclysmic event, it now appears that the volcano will reopen. Why is Yellowstone Park closed? This is not the first time Yellowstone has been temporarily closed, but the reasons behind this time are very dangerous and pose a huge risk to the world. It's no secret that the park's beautiful geysers and hot springs are a direct result of the central thermal and geological activity of the supervolcano. The last major eruption of the supervolcano occurred approximately 640,000 years ago, but the region is far from weak. The park was last closed during the 2020 coronavirus outbreak to prevent the spread of the disease. This is not surprising because many businesses were still closed during this time. Yellowstone was previously closed in 2012 due to the Alder Creek fire. The rapid spread and potential danger of the fire, which started in August 2012, caused the authorities to take immediate action to protect visitors and the park. Once the situation is under control and risks are reduced, parks will gradually reopen and affected areas will be temporarily closed until they are deemed safe for public access. Other significant events that caused its closure in the distant past were fire-related, and one was flood-related. But in the meantime, the dormant supervolcano beneath Yellowstone appeared to have awakened from its centuries-long slumber. Although the volcano itself is in northwestern Wyoming, most of the park consists of molten and semi-molten rocks called magma. This magma flows into rocks deep below the surface of the park called magma chambers and solidifies over time. Scientists have been following all these processes closely for a long time. They learned how magma cools and solidifies, causing the ground to expand and even sink. Between 2004 and 2009, the ground rose about 25 centimeters but began to recover in 2010. They also use a temperature monitoring system to monitor activity in the Norris Geyser Basin and obtain information about the geyser's eruption. Norris Geyser Basin is one of the hottest geysers in the United States. About 115,000 years ago, in this place, there was hot weather and hot air under the sun. At 300 feet below the surface, the temperature here can reach an incredible 459 degrees Fahrenheit. One of the wonders of the basin is the awe-inspiring Steamboat Geyser, which stands 120 meters high. It has erupted regularly in the past, and its eruptions are unpredictable. Sometimes it occurs every 4 days, and sometimes it takes up to 50 years to erupt. But things changed in March 2018. It broke the previous record in 2018 when it exploded at full power 32 times. However, it showed itself again the following year, breaking 48 times. During the survey, a new unexpected explosion occurred on May 7, 2023, and was the fourth unexpected explosion this year. The eruption occurred near a spring called Old Faithful, which is known to have erupted many times. But the unexpected explosion was accompanied by new thermal features that spewed mud and hot water. Therefore, authorities need to close the area for the safety of visitors. Another incident occurred in September 2022 when a fire broke out and revealed human waste that had been dumped for years. Recently, the University of Utah created a network of seismometers. A network of scientists strategically placed seismometers throughout the park and nearby areas to detect the smallest earthquakes or ground tremors associated with volcanic activity. By analyzing seismic data, they can determine the location, depth, and intensity of earthquakes. This helps them understand how magma moves underground and what volcanic processes do. About 148 earthquakes have been detected in the region so far this year. We can conclude that Yellowstone's recent changes in the region give little signal. This led park officials to decide to close the park until all concerns about possible explosions were resolved. Why are supervolcanoes more dangerous than ancient volcanoes? News of the incident understandably raised concerns about visitor safety and the park's poor location. There are good reasons for this. It is well known that supervolcanoes are more dangerous than small volcanoes. This led a group of scientists to debate the differences between the two. Most volcanic eruptions are minor, but supervolcanoes are on a whole different level. Yellowstone has experienced major eruptions in the past, classified as VEI 8 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index. But this isn't the only supervolcano in the United States. In Long Valley Crater near Mammoth Mountain in California, for this reason, there are also some volcanic areas in California with lava below the surface, especially along the Andreas Fault. Since the region is completely weak, a magnitude 6 earthquake may also occur. Now let's talk about the size of the Volcanic Explosivity Index, a scale that scientists use to measure the explosiveness and severity of volcanic eruptions. It looks at factors such as the height of the fire line, the amount of fuel expelled, and the length of the explosion. The VEI scale ranges from 0 to 8. Level 8 is the most destructive and extreme level on record. The eruption at the extreme end of the scale is small and localized and has less impact than nearby volcanoes. As the VEI scale increases to categories 1, 2, and 4, the explosion becomes more explosive and can produce higher explosive streaks. This can cause pyroclastic flows of hot ash, oil, and rock and have a major impact on the area around the volcano. As the VEI scale reaches 5, the explosion becomes more violent. Large amounts of ash are produced, and radioactive material, also known as tephra, is more dispersed. This means the impact could be widespread, affecting a wider area around the volcano and causing transport and environmental impacts. But some things happen with VEI 6 to 8. The highest end of the scale is where super eruptions occur. In rare cases, these are the most catastrophic events. They are characterized by large explosion lines that can reach the stratosphere and large amounts of ejected material. These impacts may also affect global climate patterns along with environmental and social impacts. Unfortunately, Yellowstone volcanoes fall into the second category. As previously mentioned, a group of scientists published a paper in 2014 showing that the fire could send nearly 3 trillion cubic feet of ash to the Midwest. Not only that, but states like Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Colorado will also be buried under the ashes. This will harm the plants and wildlife in the area. Roofs may collapse under the weight of volcanic ash, and electrical equipment may be damaged. This ash also acts as a barrier. They reflect sunlight into space, causing temporary cooling of the Earth's surface. This cooling can disrupt normal precipitation patterns, shift wind direction, and cause regional and global climate impacts, resulting in changes in the growing season and reduced yields. It's becoming harder for farmers to grow the food we need, causing food shortages and problems with people's nutrition. If the Yellowstone volcano erupted, the consequences would be huge. This news, along with its impact on the park, has led some to wonder whether the U.S. government is doing anything to lessen the impact of this horrific reality. The U.S. importance in protecting the region. Yellowstone has long been a national park, but scientists did not understand the extent of the volcano's firewood until the 1960s. It wasn't until the 1980s that they realized that this force was still very strong and could lead to a major crisis. But volcanic eruptions are very unpredictable. They do not have a set program like machines. This is a big problem for all of us because we have no way of knowing when these things will happen. This leads many of us to ignore the consequences and not accept them as we would like. Because it is still a threat when it finally happens. The government did not take any significant steps to mitigate the impact. Moreover, it is almost impossible to be prepared for a disaster of this magnitude, especially when you do not know when it will happen. If the volcano becomes too dangerous, an evacuation plan will be made. Until then, all they can do is issue early warnings and public announcements. They can also arrange necessary facilities such as emergency shelters and medical facilities. But this is very dangerous, and if the volcano does not appear in this life, it will be almost completely. No one is sure, although some scientists say it is unlikely that the Yellowstone volcano will re-emerge as a supervolcano or occur. This theory hasn't stopped many people from continuing to observe the movement of magma beneath the surface of the park. More action for scientists and organizations kept us safe. Some have said events such as changes in plate tectonics or changes in magma underground could lead to more violence. Others are wondering whether the latest earthquake is related to a potential volcanic eruption. Thousands of these earthquakes have occurred over the years. They are also divided into 4 different groups. Southeast earthquakes are quite common in the region and account for approximately half of the seismic activity. Despite all these observations, understanding the generator is still difficult, and there are many factors involved. But thanks to ongoing monitoring and data collection in the park, scientists can now better understand Yellowstone's activity and draw conclusions. In addition to installing seismometers in the park, other equipment is also used to analyze tectonic changes. They use satellite technology to monitor and record the smallest changes in the position of the Earth's surface. By comparing repeated measurements over time, they were able to detect changes in the landscape that could indicate volcanic activity. This GPS data provides information about the movement of magma beneath the surface and helps identify patterns that may be early signs of eruption. There are also gas stations located at strategic points around Yellowstone. These stations analyze gases such as sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide released by supervolcanoes. Changes in gases provide important clues about what's happening in the magma and rocks below. A significant deviation from normal gas levels may indicate increased volcanic activity. Different organizations and experts have also investigated the problem of preventing explosions in parks. One has an interesting idea to increase the water in the volcano. The idea behind this is that water absorbs heat from the system, reducing the risk of dangerous pressure buildup. However, this method has proven to be very dangerous and difficult. This leads them to decide that testing at the actual moment of the mysterious explosion would not be possible. The fear of Yellowstone's closure has raised questions about whether all of these precautions are necessary. Estimation of volcanic eruption time. The highest increase in volcanoes in the last 10 years. The risk of sudden eruption increased by up to 320%. To make matters worse, the magma in the lake has been increasing lately, causing the park to shake and rattle after each geyser eruption. Similarly, the ground in the Norris Geyser Basin rose about 5 inches in 8 years starting in 1996, then fell about 3 inches in the next 8 years. Suddenly, out of the blue, it rose again at a rapid rate of about 6 inches per year. Even the 4.9 magnitude earthquake in March 2014 stopped the steady rise. But everything changes, and the land continues to rise and fall until in 2019 it finally begins to fall again. Today, the basin is about 5 inches higher than it was in 2000. When the ground rises, a volcano will appear, so you can imagine how the government and park authorities have not found a solution for years. Famous scientist Mikio Kaku said that considering all these signs, the volcano will erupt one day. This will not happen for many years or centuries, but we must understand that the situation continues. As we plan to visit Yellowstone this time, explore and have a great time, we should know that sometimes nature has its own way. Therefore, we can shift our interest and happiness to finding other ways to interact with our environment. Thanks for watching.